Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker.
Tēnā koe.
Thank you. Sir, there's an old saying that no good deed goes unpunished, and I suspect that phrase would resonate with our New Zealand police force at the moment, who have performed in an exemplary manner in recent times in the last several years. And their reward is to see their budget cut yet again for the fourth or fifth year in a row. Our police force are being asked to do more with less. It seems a perverse reward for an organisation that has done everything this government has asked of it. They have done a great deal of what the New Zealand population have asked of them. They continue to be forward-looking, to be creative in the use of resources, and the reward is to suffer a budget cut. And I cannot understand the logic or the reasoning behind that. We understand that Minister Tolley is only one minister in a cabinet. I believe that minister has done some good things in policing, in corrections, in her portfolios, but nevertheless, the police force, in fact across the justice sector collectively, there has been a significant cut in the available resource, and that is a very strange decision made by this government. Sir, in recent years with the police, I give credit and I acknowledge recently retired Commissioner Marshall, who I believe did an excellent job in changing the culture of the police force. He was an admirable officer. He did an extremely good job of changing the culture of the New Zealand police. And that's an extremely brave ambition. That's an extremely ambitious objective, to change the culture of an organisation to which change does not come easily or naturally. I believe that the initiatives like Prevention First, like the neighbourhood policing units, these are all strategies and techniques that resonate with New Zealanders. To some extent, it's back to the future.
Yes.
Crime prevention is the best way to deal with crime. We know this, to avoid it happening. The Prevention First strategy has been very effective. We have seen a reduction in some offending. We can't entirely take credit for that. That is an international phenomenon. Some of it related to demographics, to science, to hard security around premises and so on. But the fact is that the police force have actually risen to the occasion. They have changed their strategy, they've changed their tactics, they've changed their way of operating in ways that have been beneficial, that have served to make our society and our community safer. And the reward is that this budget has taken money away from them and insisted that yet again they must look to take cuts. You can cut fat, you can cut flesh. The police are now being asked to cut to the bone. And that is perverse, and that is going to have very unfortunate outcomes. The president of the Police Association, who is not a fellow given to extreme language or rhetoric, he has said that there is an increasing risk of operational failures, and fear of crime will quickly turn when police cannot respond or don't get a response right. The police have demonstrated that they can make New Zealanders feel safer, that they can contribute to reducing crime. And the peculiar logic that I am endeavouring to understand from this government is to say because they've succeeded, we'll take money away from them. What they're overlooking is the fact that the Prevention First strategy, the neighbourhood policing units, these are people-intensive strategies. Yes, we know the police are using new technologies and they're using them very well. They're using electronics, they're using cell phones, they're using GPS systems, they're using iPads to reduce the amount of time that officers are spending bent over word processors and in police stations, rather than out there providing a face-to-face service to New Zealanders. These are very people-intensive strategies. We know that the neighbourhood police units, for example, their task is to create units of officers, a sergeant and a number of constables, who will know who the troubled people are in their community. They'll know where the hotspots are in their community. That takes time, takes commitment, and it requires good morale. We heard, and I recall very well, Commissioner Marshall talking about this, to the extent that a generation ago or even a decade ago, young police officers in particular, built their morale by the excitement, the thrill of the chase, charging around in cars, catching people, chasing offenders down the road and arresting them. That's how they built their morale. Modern policing, the sort of policing that our police force now aspires to do, is a hard grind. It lacks some of that adrenaline fuel interest and excitement because they're seeking to prevent crime. And you do that by building relationships within a community, by talking to the youth, by understanding where the pressure points are in a community. That is people intensive. It demands a great deal of time. And that's where these budget cuts are going to show most badly. I recall having conversations with district commanders, with senior police officers, and with officers on the beat who all agree that good police morale is critical to the success of the Prevention First strategy, of the forward-looking, shall I say, a modern policing approach, rather than simply putting men and women in cars to go out and chase burglars and offenders of other sorts, to actually engage with the community, to go back, as I said, a back to the future approach, where we actually treat police officers as pillars of our community and respect them as such. And that respect comes through because they engage with the community, with the troubled people, with those who are damaged, with the youth, with the offenders. And to the extent that their budget is being cut, what sort of a message is that sending to those very hard-working men and women, those men and women with significant commitment to a safe community, to limiting harm done on the roads, to limiting offending? The message is very clearly that actually this government does not value those people or the enormous commitment, the very difficult and demanding tasks that they undertake on a daily basis. The cuts to their budget is saying, look, you've done really well and we expect you to do more with a great deal less. That is a very perverse message to send. I look forward to a time personally when we can cut the police budgets. I certainly look forward to a time when we can cut the corrections budgets because we will have less offending. That time is not now. This government's budgeting is the budget of parsimony. It is cost-cutting. It is penny-pinching in the service of this illusory surplus which they would have New Zealanders believe they have generated. This is a very, very dangerous and foolish place to cut costs. The frontline people who are actually out there on a daily basis, keeping our communities safe, reducing offending, looking to provide service on the roads. The people who serve our communities in a very difficult and dangerous way, getting the message that actually their work is not respected, it is not valued, because the dollars are not being provided for them to do that job. The reason they have succeeded is because they have found efficiencies for at least 5 years and even longer than that. The police have learned to do more with less. They've learned technology, they've used technology in a very intelligent way. They've sought to maximise the amount of good work that every individual officer can do in their 8-hour shift, their 10-hour shift, their 12-hour shift. And their perverse reward is to be told, well, actually, we respect and value you so much, we're going to make you do even more with even less. This is not the time to be parsimonious. This is not the time to cut costs or cut corners in terms of policing. Nor is it the time to be reducing the funding available to the justice sector more generally. There's been a very good analysis done by Just Speak, and I recommend government members read it through. Just Speak being the youth arm of Rethinking Crime and Punishment, young people with a commitment to peaceful, to safe communities and to natural justice being done. They have highlighted very well that we have seen over the last several years a chipping away at the funding available. A justice system can only work if it is properly resourced. We've seen the debacle of the endeavour to put the courts in a more efficient place. The E-bench has failed badly. The project management of that project has fallen over, and that's unfortunate because we know that our courts are overstretched, that justice delayed is justice denied, and we are not seeing the efficiency, the streamlining in the court system that this government promised. They stood up and said they would make the courts work better, and they've failed to do that. We've seen ongoing cuts to legal aid. The most vulnerable, the least well off, the people most likely to offend and most likely to be offended against are the people who are going to continue to suffer because of short-term penny pinching, because of very misguided, as I've said, perverse decisions that are made, that because some parts of the justice sector are succeeding, that we will therefore reduce their funding. We'll therefore take money away from them and make it even harder for them to achieve the outcomes that we all aspire for them to do. I give thanks, and I do offer our respects to the police force, to those hard-working people in the justice sector. We look forward to a time when their activities will be properly rewarded and resourced. Kia ora.
Well, I don't have to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to leave the chair. This debate is interrupted and set down for resumption next sitting day. The People's House stands adjourned until Thursday at 2 p.m, the 22nd of May. Haere rā, po Māori, good evening. Ka kite.